fairly common question that I get asked as a financial advisor is, hey, Azul, I have a pension and I'm about to retire, and my company's offered me either a lump sum or the pension. Which one should I take? And there's a lot of reasons for both cases, to take the pension or to take the lump sum. But in today's video, I want to focus on 3 reasons you might want to consider taking the pension. And the first one is, and it's admittedly illogical, it should not make a difference, but it does. We are human, and what I have seen is people that have a pension are much more likely to spend that money that's coming in every month than people that have a lump sum and they have to invest it and they say, okay, give me a similar amount off of those investments. And I think it has to do with just the logic of, it feels like my old paycheck. I'm much more comfortable for 30, 40 years. This is how I've been paid. I've gotten a check from my company. And unfortunately, what I've seen way too often is it takes a while to switch from being a saver to being a spender. And people that choose the pension option are much more comfortable with that transition. It doesn't feel like as big of a switch. So that's reason number 1, and that's a huge reason, because it's important that when we start our retirement, this is when we're the youngest, this is when we're going to have the most energy, this is when we're going to be the most excited about retiring, and it's important to take full advantage of what I call the youth of your single years. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of people 12, 18, 24 months or longer to switch from being a saver to being a spender. So that's the first one. The second one is peace of mind. The company is taking the investment risk. They are offering to pay you so much per month, every month, oftentimes for the rest of your life, most of the time for the rest of your life. Not always. Sometimes there's a set number of years that it's going to cover. But for most of us, it's for the rest of our life. And so it's peace of mind. We don't have to worry about investing it. We don't have to worry about making an investment mistake. Now, there is truth to the fact that you likely could do better if you invested it, if you used a professional for sure. There's a good chance that you would do better. That at the end of the time horizon, although I don't have a crystal ball, I don't know, and none of this is financial advice. I'm just sharing with you my observations, my takeaways, having been a financial advisor for over 20 years. So I do think that the investment results over a 20, 30-year period is likely going to be higher if you worked with a fiduciary financial advisor that was very good at what they do, that had your best interests in mind, that knew what your goals were. You're likely going to have a larger sum. There's no guarantees at the end of your life than if you just took the pension, right? For most pensions, at the end of your life, you get nothing. Your heirs get nothing. And that's a downside to taking the pension, is if you invested it yourself, there is a chance, and it's probably a significant chance, that there'd be some money left over for your heirs. Now, sometimes pensions come and you get a guaranteed amount for a period of time. And if you let's say you pass away 1 year after retiring, sometimes there is a lump sum that would go to your heirs. And another factor is its longevity. It's a form of longevity protection, right? If you're a man, you're probably thinking, hopefully I make it to 80, 85 and in good health. That's probably for many of us going to be not only the end of our health span, but likely pretty close to the end of our lifespan. Women are going to live a little bit longer than men. But let's say you end up being somebody that lives to 90 or 100 years old. If you got a lump sum, there's a chance you could outlive that money. Where if you had a pension, the pension is going, as long as it's paying you for your entire life, you can count on that. Now, one thing to think about is there an inflation adjustment? Very few pensions have that. Some government pensions often do have an inflation adjustment. Some pensions, some private pensions have a set amount each year that it's going to inflate. But as we saw after the pandemic, inflation can be quite a bit higher than maybe the 2%, 2.5% inflation fixed adjustment that you have every year in a normal non-government pension. And it's also not abnormal to have no adjustment. So even though you have that longevity and protection, those dollars can feel quite a bit less. Now, so those are three strong reasons to think about it, about taking the pension over taking the lump sum. There is a way to calculate, to do the numbers, to figure out quantitatively what the best thing to do is. If you're a really good Excel jockey or a Google Sheets jockey, you can probably do it on your own. I would suggest you work with an accountant or you work with a financial advisor that's a fiduciary to you 100% of the time. This is a project, right? So it doesn't have to be a 20-year relationship, although I think mea culpa, I was a financial advisor for 20 plus years, but I think most of us benefit from having that relationship. But it doesn't have to be crazy expensive to have somebody give you the quantitative answer. At what point are you indifferent quantitatively from a number standpoint between the lump sum and the pension? And there's all kinds of assumptions that go into that, right? I mean, one thing is tax rates. I mean, none of us know what tax rates are going to be. Forget about in 20 years, but even 12 months from now, as I record this, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is set to expire at the end of 2025. So as I record this 12 months from now, we don't know what tax rates are going to be, let alone in 20 years. We don't know what inflation is going to be. We don't know what market returns are going to be. And we don't know when you're going to pass away, right? If we knew when you were going to pass away, if you're going to live to 200, to take an extreme, you're probably much better off with the pension. And conversely, if you're only going to live another 5 years, you're probably much better off with the pension. But you've got to run these numbers, right? It doesn't have to be expensive to hire an accountant, to hire a financial advisor. If you want to do it on your own, I would suggest using professional software that's designed to help you make decisions like this. The software that I like to use is Boldin, B-O-L-D-I-N. You can click on the link in the description below. This video is not sponsored by Boldin, but I am an affiliate. You'll be supporting the channel if you do that. The cost is very affordable. It's about $120 a year, $10 a month. And it lets you run different scenarios like this. Should you take the lump sum? Should you take the pension? And helps to make sure that you don't forget anything. So enough about that. Another super important decision is when you decide to retire. And that's why I made this video up here. Why waiting to 65 to retire might be a big mistake. I'll see you in that video. Bye-bye.